There's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man.
Don't you even know how to be a real Indian?
Well, sometimes they have to kill us. They have to kill us. Because they can't break our spirit.
Hey everybody, it's Ian. It's time for another episode of Native Film Talk. And today I spoke with Ryker, Sixkiller. So first of all, badass name. Ryker is so many things, and I talked about him, try to talk about all of them during the interview with him today. He's an actor, he's a cinematographer, but I think most importantly, he's a stuntman, and you hear it when you talk to him in his voice that he seems to be most proud of his stunt work and his development as a stuntman and his ability to really cultivate interest out of him just selling himself as a stuntman and selling himself, like really being Johnny on the spot with his resume, his business card, his reel, his stunt reel. And having that ability to sell yourself is something that really anybody that's not even film related, native related, I think this is just an inspiring story to tell and story to listen to. And I think, Ryker, I initially got drawn to him because of Oki podcast. I heard him as the first guest on the Oki podcast, and 5 minutes in, I'm like, man, this guy's been in Dinosaur World. This guy has been in fights with Shin Yu, who was in Kung Fu Hustle as Coolie. He has been in Killers of the Flower Moon. That's coming up, the Martin Scorsese film. He's done work on Reservation Dogs. He eventually did stunt work on Reservation Dogs. He's just continuing to kill it on all fronts. He's a fitness guru, even though he doesn't attest to be one. He's just so many things. And I think that everyone will benefit from hearing this conversation with Ryker because, one, he is extremely humble. You can hear it in his voice. You can hear it when you talk to him. He just is one of those aw shucks guys. But he's one person that I'm going to root for a long time. He's getting more and more opportunities because this guy is just willing to go out and lay it all out on the line and say, what do I have to lose? What's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is they can say no. And he is really a testament to that work ethic. And I have a lot of respect for that because that's my work ethic. Is two things I live my life by. Never be afraid to say I don't know and never stop learning. And those are my two big things that I try to live by. And so I naturally gravitate toward people that have that same kind of mentality. But I also really am attracted to certain people that have that mentality because I'm like, man, how did you get to where you are to get that mindset? Because I know how I got there with mine. And so I try to unpack that a little bit with Ryker to try to understand, how did you get to where you are? You don't just become like that overnight. I don't think I did that good of a job of it. I'm still developing as an interviewer, trying to dig deeper. But frankly, he's a Cherokee individual that works in the film industry, and that was kind of the least of my concerns when I was talking to him, because I really just wanted his opinion on what does the industry want. And for him, it's not him, at least for native roles. And he's too dark to be white, and he's too light and doesn't have the right look to be native in Hollywood anyway. And so that's why we spent a good amount of time talking about Reservation Dogs being run by Sterling Harjo, and why that particular show is so important. And Reservation Dogs is going to be released on August 9th this year, everybody, in 2021. And so I talked about it a little in my last episode in the Hollywood Diversity Report, but when Reservation Dogs shows up, we gotta show out. We gotta watch that thing over and over, and not just to support, but also really to show love to native talent, to show love to stuff that's exclusively run by natives. And I specifically asked Ryker because he did work on that show, and I was like, what was that environment like? What was it like to work on a show where it was 100% indigenous, show run, acted, directed? What did that feel like? How was that different than the traditional movie set? And it was toward the end of the interview that I should say, asked him about it, and he gave some great insight. But overall, you learn a lot about this man. You learn a lot about his history. You learn a lot about his work ethic, and you just learn a lot about how you can break into the film industry. If you're remotely interested in this, native or not, he gives good insight into how you do it. You got to be Johnny at the spot. You got to be ready with the business card. You got to be ready with your resume. Got to be ready with your film reel, with your stunt reel, whatever it is you want to do. You got to have your body of work prepared, and Ryker is that all the time. Don't get ready, stay ready. He has a epitome of that, and I had a blast talking with him. It was one of the most genuine conversations I had in a while, and both of us afterwards were kind of just like, man, that was a good conversation. I really look forward to the next time we can talk again. And we truly meant that on both parties, and it was a great time. I hope everyone has a good time enjoying this conversation. I certainly had a good time talking to Ryker, and all right, y'all, talk to you later. All right, cool. Well, I'm here today with Ryker Sixkiller. So Ryker is a lot of things. He's an actor, he's a stuntman, he's a cinematographer. He's in the running for a name of the year every year. I love the name Ryker Sixkiller.
Thank you.
I think, what drew me to you initially, knew nothing about you, never heard of you. And you were on the first episode of Oki Podcast. And I followed Oki Podcast because he followed me, and he was like, hey, I'm another native guy starting up a podcast. And he's kind of just trying to do interviews with awesome people and people that he knows and in Oklahoma, and also just people that he finds fascinating. And you were his first episode. Mm-hmm. And I just took a listen. And after like the first 5 minutes, I was just like, who the hell is Ryker Sixkiller? This dude's awesome, man. Because you were, yeah, no. And, I'll give you a quick introduction, but can you just tell us, just a quick, elevator pitch of who you are and what Native Nation you hail from?
My name is Ryker Sixkiller. I'm a citizen of the Cherokee Nation with the Long Hair Clan. I am an actor, stuntman. I'm a stuntman first, or what I'd like to be anyway. A stuntman, actor. I am a writer, cinematographer, and editor, film editor for Buffalo Nickel Creatives. This shirt I'm wearing with the Indian Territory. See what else do I do? That's pretty much the main stuff I do anyway.
Nice. Yeah. Well, in the interview, when I heard you talking, the stunt work is what really drew me to really start following you, because you don't really hear Native people talk about stunt work. You hear Native people being actors and wanting to be directors. You hear Sterling Harjo's name. You hear of all like the main actors from, Canada and, West Studi, Gary Farmer. You hear about them all the time, and Adam Beach. And then you try to, when we talk about getting people breaking into the industry, we're mostly talking about actors and directors. And writers, I think, are starting to get some notoriety with things like the Hollywood Diversity Report that are highlighting the lack of representation in the writer's room and even in the C-suite with, not with a minority representation. But then nobody talks about stunt work and it's something that I think it's lost upon a lot of us. And movies like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood are kind of like shedding a light of like, hey, stunt work is a part of the most important things in a movie, in every movie, and it's just not talked about enough. Do you feel like that? Do you feel like stunt work doesn't get its due?
Yeah, I do and I don't. I mean, on the set, I feel like the stunt people, stunt women, stunt men are very well respected. And at least every set I've been on where I've done stunt work, we've been treated with the utmost respect, and everyone's always, really hyped when we do a stunt and making sure that we're okay. As far as like everyone else in society, yeah, I feel like they're kind of the people who are just hidden in the dark. But yeah, it's like it's not really talked about that much. When people find out that I am a stuntman, they're just like, oh wow, like almost like it's a new thing,
Yeah,
it's been around forever.
It's been around forever, and frankly, the documentary Real Engine, Rod Rondeau, he was the only stunt man I knew about because of, you know, his horse riding that he talked about. And he was kind of training other native kids to kind of do horse tricks and stuff. And that was like, as far as I thought about it for really stunt work. But the stunt work that you're doing is awesome because you did a movie called Dinosaur World, a Chinese movie where you in the trailer, if you blink, you'll miss you. But you described it so well in Oki podcast that when I watched the trailer, I saw you fighting Xing Yu and on the shore side of the lake, and that was a great scene. You know, even just seeing you there, I'm just like, a part of you is just like, he's probably in it for a little bit, but you were in the trailer. It's just like, holy crap, that's awesome, man. That's
I got a good piece on that. And I got that gig. Well, I kind of explained a little bit on Oki podcast. So I got casted for as a security guard for the Adventures of Rufus the Fantastic Pet. And I was supposed to just, you know, collapse after I got zapped by magic, and I saw those mats, and I was, you know what? So I hit him up. I asked him if I could make it look a little bit more epic, and then when I explained it to him, they're like, yeah, go for it. So when I did that, they were impressed, and they were like, they told me that they thought to themselves, who can make it believable that they can fight this guy, and for a little bit, and so they remembered me, and then that's what got me casted for that.
No kidding.
And you know, he was such a fantastic person to work with. He's actually kind of surprised by like the work ethic that we were putting in, because I guess he was saying that typically when he does a fight scene with some American actors or stuntmen, I don't know about stuntmen, but American actors, that they one little scratch and they'll kind of like be done, you know, or like kind of complain about it. He didn't mention anyone in particular. Of course, there's a language barrier. You know, he had a translator, so we're both talking to his translator when we're communicating. But that's what made him really enjoy working with me. And then, of course, I was like starstruck working with him because this is a guy from Kung Fu Hustle.
Yep.
And he's such a badass too, man.
Yeah. For those of you that real quick, let me interject. For those of you that don't know, Xing Yu is he played Cooley in Kung Fu Hustle. He was part of that trio of Donut, Taylor, and Cooley that kind of defended the town, that were eventually killed by the harpist duo that were kind of killed them in the middle of the night. The ones that played the harps, that shot kind of like the knives and everything and the weapons. So Cooley was the jacked one. He's the one that kind of looks like Martin Sensmeyer. That's kind of how I remember him.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
Yeah, he kind of looks like him, at least with short hair. I don't remember. He kind of a little bit had longer hair I think in Dinosaur World, but man, that was
slick back.
Yep. That was crazy, man, to see you in that. And I think I have a lot of respect for you too, because you're doing stuff that is not just being native. Like, you're not just being native on camera, like you're doing everything. And that's kind of, you know, I don't want to talk too much about myself, but in my world, like, this is the only thing I do where I get credit for being native. Like, I just work in basically corporate America, and like my minority status doesn't really afford me anything. It just affords me like a tick box in the minority box, but like my identity, my background, it doesn't give me a leg up on anything. And I see a lot in that and in you, where you just get after it. And before I hit record, you told me of just like not passing up opportunities is something you take pride in, and something that has helped you get to where you've gotten. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes really far back. I won't go too far back, but one of the things was I was hired for this gig in El Reno. And, you know, when there's a lot of downtime when you're on set, of course, if anyone's been on set, you'll notice there's a lot of hurry up and wait type thing. And while I was just sitting there waiting, I'm really fascinated by the whole process of making a film or something, or making a commercial or a series, that I started paying attention to every department, like the grips. That's who I was on this set. That's who I was like really following around. I was just watching him. There's a guy named Greg. He's kind of an older man. He's a co-owner of Amp Equipment. And so when he was done setting up some lights, and when I asked him like, what was this for? What was this for? Why'd you do this? What are you looking at? And this from me reaching out to him and just constantly, you know, asking what he was doing and how he did it, all this stuff. He offered me a job to work as a grip with him. So I was a grip for a little bit, and I got to go on all these sets and just see how everything functioned, the process of everything, and why, you know, why they're doing a certain shot, and why this lighting wouldn't work and this one would, and all those other things. And so I got to learn a lot behind the camera that way. And then, of course, I got hired on at Buffalo Nickel Creative, and I got a lot more experience working with the camera and editing and whatnot. But with the opportunities, is one of the things. Rufus the Fantastic Pet is just opening my mouth. I could have just very well just done what was written, just collapsed, and they would have forgotten about me at the end of the day. But so me taking that next step further kind of made it stand out, and they remembered me and wanted to use me for something else. And then for Res Dogs, I got casted in that to do some stunts twice. And one of the things was we were on set doing behind the scenes. Buffalo Nickel was, so I was up there filming, and I know most of the writers, and one of them was Migazy. And I just came up to him and I was like, "Hey, like, if you need an extra body, to get thrown around," I was like, "Let me know." He's like, "I think we do got something."
Nice.
And so that's what I'm talking about. Is like not passing up opportunities like that. And then,
and you were there primarily for cinematography, and you offered your services as a stuntman. And they're like, "Hey, if you need somebody, throw me around."
And another part of that was Bobby Wilson. Yeah, he. I reached out to him because like I was hitting kind of a dry season where I wasn't getting any work. Like pre-COVID, I had like 3 feature films lined up for 2020.
Wow.
And then because of COVID, all that just fell through. And so I was just kind of an actor out of work. And I kind of ran into a problem of when it comes to casting calls, when it's like Caucasian or Native American. Like I'd go for Native American, they're like, "Well, you're not dark enough to be Native." And I'm like, "Okay." And then I'd go for Caucasian, like, "Well, you're not wide enough to be Caucasian." And so like, "Well, what the hell?" So I hit him up and asked him like I asked him for some advice, and he asked me, he's like, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Well, like if I have it my way, I'd like to do stunts for like these big blockbuster style films, and I like do acting for independent, low budget films." And so he, me reaching out to him and just we having a conversation about that and asking for some advice. So I wasn't asking him like, "Hey man, will you put me in your show?"
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't doing that. But so he helped me out. He put like he told me to post some of my fights that I've done like on my own, like some of those fight scenes, post it on Instagram.
Those are great.
So thank you. Appreciate it.
So real quick, to interrupt anybody that's listening, go to Ryker Sixkiller on his Instagram page and just look through his back catalog. He's got some great fight scenes, and even some of the fights he posted. I mean, your cinematography really shows. And you're doing a lot. You're doing a shitload of work, like in the amount of body movement you're doing. You're throwing yourself around. You're really selling the hits and the kicks really well. But also, like, you're launching yourself off the ground, and you're like putting the camera at various angles that really show the explosiveness of those moves and maneuvers. And I think I think everyone's listening needs to at least check it out so you can see and fully appreciate what Riker's talking about.
Yeah. So with that though, I got asked a few times. I've been getting hit, especially recently, about how to get into the stunts. And my biggest advice, or at least what I've done that's helped me out, was just doing practice, like doing stuff on your own. You're like, if you have 2 friends or even just one and a tripod, just set it up and just show yourself, just record yourself doing some of these stunts. It doesn't have to be the best cinematography or anything, just so that you have something to present to them. So that's what Bobby was saying, because like I did YouTube videos and whatnot, and I do little fight skits of my own just so I can stay sharp and still be used to those falls and whatnot. And so I put that together, and he sent that to a few of his friends, and he sent it to his agent in LA, and his agent called me, and we had a discussion. He talked about my reel, and then he sent it to one of his friends who was a stunt coordinator. And then she sent it to one of her friends. And then next thing you know, I'm casted as a stuntman in Killers of the Flower Moon.
That's crazy.
And so,
real quick, Killers of the Flower Moon is the upcoming Martin Scorsese film, right? That's
has with
Leonardo DiCaprio, and so that's crazy. You're in it. You're all over the place. Is that I didn't realize so much work happened in Oklahoma. You're not having to do a lot of traveling for this, are you?
No, this is actually kind of new. I mean, there's been work in Oklahoma, but it's not this type and not this amount. Like a lot of the things are lower budget and just kind of spaced out. So everyone's just kind of don't have too much to. It's just a lot of people fighting over one thing, instead of just multiple things. Now it's just there's so many things going on. I feel like the opportunities definitely the level of opportunities rising. But
That's awesome. Well, I kind of cut you off when you were talking about the split
oh,
between too brown to be white and not quite had the look to be cast as native. And it sounds like you're okay with that because you don't want to do, major motion pictures with acting. You kind of want to
mhm.
do lower budget independent film work. But why do you think we're still there in 2021? Why do you think that perception still
Because
exists when someone can tell you don't look native enough?
yeah, that's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked that. It's just a common misconception that it's just people when they think Native Americans, they think of those period pieces.
Mm-hmm.
They think of only full bloods. They don't think of like the modern day where, not. I mean, not everyone's full blood anymore. I mean, you still have some, but like, yeah. So it's just like when you say Native, it's like you have to be full blood now in order to get a part. And hopefully, I think with Reservation Dogs, I think it's going to definitely open up more opportunities for people who aren't, or at least don't look like they're full.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the natives that are cast in there, not all of them are. And some of them look like me, some lighter, some darker.
Do you think? What do you get asked that like outright? Like, are you full?
I have a couple times,
Wow.
but it's very, very rare because I honestly I don't look it to me
Mm-hmm.
and to my family. Like if you see my brother, he looks full, but no, he's not.
Yeah,
But
and even that gets into such a dicey conversation, even among Native people of like what does full
blood
look like?
quantum.
Yeah, I mean blood quantum. I like that. People are learning about it now that really it's like certain breeds of animals and natives were the only ones that are measured in blood quantum, and it was designed as a way to phase us out of existence because if you can start out as a whole and you can only go down from there, you're eventually going to measure yourself out of existence, and that's what they wanted. And we make it worse. We meaning Native people, by pinning ourselves against each other by saying by having these like race blood quantum wars almost, and of like are you who's darker, who has longer hair, who has better hair,
Yes.
and
Oh my gosh.
who's not res. and
Yeah.
I'm Navajo. I'm from the res. My CIB says 4/4, but I don't look it. When I grow my hair out, man, it grows straight out like a freaking afro,
Mhm.
and I don't have straight hair at all. Me and my brothers were like that, and we know in our genealogy we have some like infusion of like some Irish individuals, and we're like, well, that's probably where all that mess came from. but it's it's so unfortunate because in the I guess acting world, it's an
Mhm.
issue, but it's not as big of an issue as it is in Hollywood. It seems. I mean, they really have an image that they want to uphold when they're talking about natives.
Yeah, they
What
do.
and it's good that you talked about Reservation Dogs because Reservation Dogs, it's indigenous acted, directed,
Mhm.
indigenous writers all over the place, and it's
From
like
front to back. Yeah.
and it's insane. That's like unprecedented for something that's going to be on the level of FX or at least shown on
Mhm.
FX. Why do you think? Do you really think that it's going to take like something like that to move the ball forward? Is there other things that we can do to help people understand like what the modern day native looks like?
Yeah, I definitely think that's gonna catapult us forward like a lot. Um, I think what would help us is doing kind of keeping that ball rolling is telling stories that way or telling the modern stories, and not going back to the early 1900s or 1800s or whatever,
Less period
is like,
pieces.
yeah, exactly. I mean, some of the stories are, a lot of the stories are very important to tell, but I feel like they've been told over and over and over. And a lot of times they get altered to make, the white man not look bad.
For sure.
And so that's why I think this show is going to be so impactful. It's going to open a lot of eyes. People are going to actually get to see what it's like now for res kids and for just the indigenous communities all around.
I think that's so important piece that you said. The period pieces, the resurgence of like trying to reinvent the modern Western or reinvent the Western to be more modern. It is very much revisionist in that they're trying to make it seem like, well, there were good white people too. and they try to really like spin it on its head, and they try to make natives a little more in a positive light, less savage, less noble savage, less just going to rape you and take everything that you're worth. But still, it doesn't capture anything close to what we are today, and it's very much a othering of what these movies do, of like, okay, here's society and here's where the natives exist. And unfortunately, even if you try to make it right in a period piece, you're still doing that of just like, well, natives are not of us. Natives are different than us. And so you still have this misconception of who native people are. So I think shows like Rutherford Falls, Resident Alien, and what you just mentioned coming out August 9th, Reservation Dogs, those are extremely important for us to see. It's awesome. It's interesting to me that that's only seems to be happening in television, at least at that, major level.
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you think that is? Like, we got the film coming out, Killers of the Flower Moon, that you're going to be in, but that's not necessarily driven by native talent and with a native lens. So can you talk about a little bit more about like what we can do to get that going for the major motion picture level?
Well, I think the Reservation Dogs is a good start for it. I kind of think that this is that, step into the right direction. Nice. I think that next step will be in big motion pictures, big blockbuster films.
Awesome.
I don't think it's going to happen right away, but with Reservation Dogs, I think it's going to open more opportunities for stories like that to being told and to work up. I'm pretty sure Sterling's probably going to make the first, major motion picture film about indigenous communities, like a modern day one.
Nice. I think go ahead.
Oh, I'm saying, and I think if he does tell a period piece, I think he's going to tell it the right way and show more in depth of what it was like for us back in the day, just as far as like how everything went, and show the matriarchal side of the tribes as well, because I don't think there's any films that really touch base on that.
No, definitely not. And if they do it the very like white person kind of view of like the matriarchal society, where it's like, oh, they were equals. It's like, no, equal is meaning there was already inequity to begin with. Like they're very different. Like matriarchal societies are so different. I did a view. I did, what is it? Last of the Mohicans. One of the early episodes when Daniel Day-Lewis's character Hawkeye introduces himself you've seen Last of the Mohicans, right? At the very end, when he's negotiating for the life of the women, and he's like holding up his wampum belt, and he's like, I Hawkeye from, and he was like, from lineage of adopted by Chingachgook, and I was like, that's a white person's understanding of. He was like the last of my line from Chingachgook. He's like, that's a white person's understanding of Native people, because even if your mom passed, you identify through your mother, even if she's not in the movie at all. But for them, they're just like, hey, Chingachgook, that's the last of the Mohicans. We got to talk about him. And it's like, okay, for us, we probably felt like that was a win because it's such an advancement from how terrible the books were and how poorly they portrayed Native people. But that's the difference of what you're talking about, of like someone like Sterling taking the reins, running the show, doesn't have to consult with anybody. Maybe not consult with anybody, but knows who to talk to ask the important questions. And it's not going to be, is this native language right? It's going to get down to the nitty gritty of like, what are the issues that plague us? What are the real stuff that we talk about on a day-to-day basis? What does life really look like now? And, I kind of flip-flop back and forth. To me, I'm like, well, there won't be an audience for that. But at the same time, stories like that are not told at all. And I think people would be fascinated by those stories in any setting, in any genre. I think people would be fascinated by those. Blood Quantum is a good example of that. Directed by Jeff Barnaby, where it's just like a native showrunner taking the reins and doing something different in a way that hasn't been told before. You're just like, well, shit, that's pretty awesome. I'd like to see more of that.
Yeah. My friend and coworker, his name's Laurent Kachayam. He is someone that you should probably look up as well. He is great with he does like a lot of short films. He has a lot of short films on his YouTube, and they're all native. Everything is native, but he modernized some of it, and some of it isn't just focused on the traditions, but it's just native people doing modern day things. That's another thing I think we need to see more of. It's not so much of So you're just seeing in different positions, like professions as well. Seeing, Robert, he's, a doctor or nurse on Grey's Anatomy now.
Robert
So
Mesa, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like another thing, another step forward. That's what we need to see more of. It's people in like positions like that.
I think
Instead
it's
of seeing them as like trackers or something like you see in Wonder Woman.
God, Wonder Woman, and even in Longmire, it's like that, where it's like it's in a better light. It's a reimagining, of the Western, but it's still like stereotypical in some ways. It's like we can't get past that. It's like, the native has to be a tracker. He might have short hair now, and he might be played by Lou Diamond Phillips, but he's still going to be a tracker.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think, and I hate that, because when I was talking about one of my buddies, Predator, in Sonny Landham's role, he did that, in South America, supposed to be Native American, randomly cuts a vine, knows to drink out of it. And I'm just like, he's not indigenous to that land. Like, he would have no idea. All of his war experiences in Vietnam. And how does he just know to like start cutting a vine and drink water from it, and knows how to track in South America? Like, he's not indigenous to that land, but that's what the film industry still does. So I wanted to talk. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I think that's be the right step forward, is moving away from that type of stereotypical thing.
And I don't even know if we know what good looks like yet. And I think that's kind of scary, but it's exciting in a way, because people like Sterling can tell that story. I think it's promising to me that we have a platform like YouTube, where it's like free, and the people will tell you what's important. I know you kind of got your start in YouTube. It wasn't doing native stuff, it was doing stunt work. But do you think there's a good opportunity for people to start careers that way? I firmly believe it is, but I wanted your opinion on that. Just
in
like
YouTube or stunts?
No, just in YouTube in general, like launching yourself from YouTube, propelling yourself into like actual TV and film.
Yeah, I think it is, if you can have something that's unique, and you have that personality and that creativity, and if you're consistent. That's one thing. You got to stay consistent, because things come and go. So I mean, all like a good example, like songs, like number one hit songs that come out now, they're forgotten within like what, a month, 2 months.
Yeah, for sure.
Things just keep coming and going, and YouTube keeps growing because people keep creating channels.
That's a good point.
And but you can, if you can find something like your thing, and just put your own unique twist on it, and just constantly posting, then I think you could. But it's just it's hard, because like everyone's trying to do it now.
It is difficult, and but I had a lot of respect for you when you said that you kind of got your start, and one of your videos had, I can't remember how many millions of views that you mentioned, and I'm just like, man, what does that feel like? Is that
I mean, it was weird, because it was when YouTube was before it was like huge. It's still kind of starting up, kind of growing, and we were just kids filming just some little action comedy scenes, and I remember thinking at one point how I was like, oh man, like, are we becoming somewhat famous? Because we did have like a few million views on some videos, and we're having fans hit us up on like Facebook and
awesome.
MySpace. When MySpace was
man around. That's a while back then.
Yeah. And but to see like that, but doing all those though, like I was able to go back and collect all those videos where I did some cool flips and whatnot, and put it together. And so that's what I was kind of talking about earlier, is practicing, doing so, even for acting. If you because an important thing to have is a demo reel, so someone can see your abilities, your talent. And so when you do that, and you put all this together, if you tell someone, I'm an actor, I'm a stuntman, they're like, oh, what have you worked on? What have you done? Do you have anything I could see? You can immediately send them something. Because that's what got me into these recent gigs, is having something to send people so they can see what I could do.
So I know the story because I heard the interview on Oki podcast, but could you recap that, your interaction on the Adventures of Rufus, the Fantastic Pet, when you kind of were given basically the script and the scene, what they wanted you to do for the stunt, and then what you proposed, and how that leveraged really more opportunities, and you surprised a lot of people and showed them your demo reel. I don't know if it was a formal demo reel or you had some stuff on your phone, but you can go and tell the story.
Yeah, it was just a demo reel I had on YouTube at the time. Actually, I keep updating it. I need to update it again, but there's my demo reels are on my YouTube. But so I had all these videos from YouTube that I put together. And when I was on set, the scene was the magician or the wizard sees me and this other security guard, and we're blocking them from leaving. And he says, "Sorry, Boros," and zaps us with magic, and we're just supposed to just collapse. And so I saw that one of those mats. It's like a mat about maybe this size.
Yeah, like a crash
I mean,
pad.
it's wider.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I was just like, man, I want to see if I can make this fall look pretty cool. I was like, if I'm going to be on TV for 1 second, I was like, I'm gonna make sure it's a good second.
That's awesome.
And so I went over there and I talked to them, and I was like, hey, do y'all mind if I make this zap look pretty intense? And like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, I do, stunts and blah, blah. And I showed them my phone, the YouTube link, and they're like, oh, that's badass. And they're like, what do you have in mind? I was like, well, I saw you have a mat. I was like, I'd like to just jump really far back and get hit. And no, you're willing to do that? I was like, yeah. And so they kind of let me control the set. And, I was talking to the DP and the director and asked them where the cameras would be and how we need to fall and whatnot. And then I was kind of coaching the other security guard on how to fall. Because knowing how to fall is very important, distributing the impact throughout the body instead of landing on one thing and just seriously hurting yourself. So that's kind of where I got my foot in the door a little bit.
Wow.
Was doing that, kind of just take it and just going for it, just asking. I mean, the worst they could do is just be like, nah, man, just go back to your corner. But since I asked and since I performed, they were like, all right, we need to have this guy in this next film. And so that's when I got asked to audition for this film called Dinosaur World. And when I got on set, they're talking to the director and the writer, and they're like, yeah, we were already going to cast you just from what you did and what you showed us. So me showing them my fight stunt reel is what, and then doing that one stunt is what made them decide to, yeah, we're going to go with this guy. And so then we're on Dinosaur World, and I met, I can't ever say his name right.
Shinyu.
Shingu, yeah.
Yep.
So I met him, and they're telling me like, yeah, you two are going to choreograph the fight. And then he didn't want to do it because he didn't want martial arts in it, too much martial arts in it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a 32nd Shaolin monk. Can't remember.
That's
but he didn't want to incorporate any of that. Although he did show me some moves afterwards, but
that's awesome.
He didn't want to incorporate too much of that in there or any of it. So he just kind of let me take over it. So I choreographed this whole fight, and he gave me his opinions, and I said, I don't want to do that, or like maybe we should do this instead. And so we did kind of work together, and man, we went really hard on this fight scene. It was really good. I'm excited for it to come out. I'm excited to see how that fight turns out.
Bro, you got some crazy freaking stories. You choreographed a fight with a Shaolin monk. Like, to just say that is like life goals. Like you could retire there, and like people could hang their hat just on that one statement. That's insane, dude.
My friend Laurent, he was freaking out about it. He's like, dude, you know what you just did? I was like, no, man. I was like, I'm on a high right now. I was like, it's crazy.
I would be. I freaking love Kung Fu Hustle. So when I heard that, not too many people talk about the Kung Fu Hustle, and so when you brought him up, when you brought him up in that movie, I knew exactly who you were talking about. And I was just like, is he talking about Cooley? And I went and like looked up online to verify. I'm just like, holy crap, he's talking about Cooley. And I think that's freaking amazing, man. And I have you always been like that, to where you're just like ready to jump in for an opportunity? Or was there a moment where you had to like become like that because of the industry that you chose to be in?
Well, I mean, it kind of, I think the beginning of it has to start when I was younger. My brother, I was always kind of like, I still think I am kind of introverted, I'm kind of socially awkward, and like, I'd always kind of just stay quiet and stay back. And, my brother always thought very highly of me as far as like my abilities. And so he's always telling me to just go for it. And he kind of got me to open up a lot when I was younger. And that's what kind of, he's basically the one just telling me to go for those opportunities. And of course he was talking about like football and other things, like that when we were younger, but that just carried on over to this, to where it's like, I'm not going to get the shot that I want unless I pursue it and just go after every opportunity. And of course there's been some things where, I go all out of my way to do something in case, just because there might be an opportunity, and it's being a dead end, and that's going to happen. But there's these other ones where something blossomed out of it. An opportunity did come from it.
You're born motivator, man. Whether or not you believe it or not, you really are motivating individual. why? So I'm kind of going backwards in this. I'm still working on my interview skills, so I apologize.
Oh,
But
you're good.
why?
No, we
Why?
are jumping over. It's cool.
Yeah, no, it's good. So why film? I mean, why out of all the things you could have done, what gravitated you to be a stuntman cinematographer? I mean, I can't say you've chosen the lane yet because you do
Mhm.
so much, and I think you're so young, and I think you have really you could do all of them at the same time still. But just why the film industry in Oklahoma of all places? You're from Tahlequah, right? And
Yeah,
coming.
well, Wauhilla. I'm from Wauhilla,
Okay,
but
you're
Talco's right next to it. Yeah.
okay, and you're from Wauhilla, Oklahoma. Like, what does a kid from a Wauhilla, Oklahoma, like end up thinking? Like, yeah, I'm gonna do films. I'm gonna be in the film industry. Especially a native kid, where it's like you never seen natives on TV. Like, what motivated you to start to think like this is what I want to do?
Well, I mean, I loved entertaining since I was a kid. Like I love doing plays with the school.
Awesome.
Of course, we kind of had to do them, but then when we actually did them, I like loved doing. I always had a blast doing that. And when I was in high school, I'd love me. Oh, actually, me and my brother, when we were out in the cuts, way out in the woods, and we had a video camera, and we'd try to do little skits here and there just for
Nice.
fun. And of course, they're horrible, god awful, but we just had fun doing it. That was the thing. We just had fun doing
Yeah.
it. And then, so when I got to high school, I got into media production with that was instructed by Don Franklin, and we'd make every week we'd have some sort of task to do, like some sort of video skit or something. And a lot of mine got scrapped because the content was kind of inappropriate for school. I mean, it wasn't like bad, but there's like people getting beat up or there's a curse word here and there. And he's like, no, he's like, start over. So I ended up dropping out of that class because all my projects got scrapped.
Oh man.
But I met this one guy who he had the YouTube channel already, and he was doing skits. And he just asked me one day, he's like, hey man, you want to do an MMA fight? And for a video. I said, sure. And so we came together, we met up, and I like knew of him and he knew of me, but we didn't really know each other. And we became really good friends after this. But we got together, made this whole slapstick comedy fight scene. It was ridiculous. It's kind of cringy now to looking back on it, but it was so wild. But so we did that, and I had so much fun. Just the whole process of just doing take after take, filming it, and then seeing him because he did all the editing for this channel. I seeing him put it together, and then just seeing it played back. I was like, oh, I love it. I love seeing the work that we put into it, and just becoming something really entertaining for everyone. And that video, there's two parts of that video, and it got like a lot of attention. I think one of them got like, I want to say 300,000 views, and the other one just got like right over 100,000. And I was like, oh shit, like this is my first videos.
That's
with
crazy.
him. And so we just kept going at it there. And for the most part, it was just for fun. We just had a good time. And then we got noticed by someone, and we got hired to do a PSA. And so when we got hired to do PSA, they paid us like $5,000. So we got to get a little bit of equipment, pay some actors, and actually have like a little bit of a set, what a movie set should be like.
Yeah.
And we just kind of thought to ourselves, like, man, like maybe we're good. Maybe we should actually go forth with this and actually take it serious. And so we did. We got together more often. We do more fight scenes, more comedy skits. We do like some drama skits, and
that's amazing.
And then he kind of stuck with staying on like YouTube and whatnot, doing those videos. And then I decided I wanted to just do more. I wanted to branch out, experience more. And so I got an agent and kind of went on from there. And I started picking up gigs here and there, meeting people, networking, and I showing people my videos. And then I met this guy named Ricky Holderby on a Mathis Brothers commercial, I think it is. He was a grip, and we were just talking, and he knew that, he saw that I was kind of built, and he's kind of built, so we just kind of started talking about stuff, then talking about acting and doing stunts, fights. And he's like, oh, you do? And he's like, I do too. And then so I showed him my reel, and he's like, hey man, you want to be in this movie I wrote and I'm directing? And I was like, sure. And so I went on, I did some stunts for his feature film. And then just from there, I was just kind of hooked, man.
You just kept going on.
Yeah, I mean, what
I think what's fascinating to me is you're like the epitome of like, oh, he just got lucky. Some people could definitely say that, but really, I'm a firm believer of the harder you work, the luckier you get. And it
Yeah,
sounds like
definitely.
you are a testament to that. That you just show up prepared, and people are like, "Man, you do stunt work? That's awesome." Hey, yeah, look at my demo reel, and you're like, "Oh shit!" Like
Yeah.
you're really prepared. Like you always seem to have your business card ready. You always seem to have your resume at the ready,
Yeah.
and you're just ready to really, really, show your skills and go all out with every opportunity. And I think there's a lot that people are listening that are wanting to break into the film industry, or really just hear an inspirational story of like, hey, someone from middle of nowhere Oklahoma seemingly can do it. It's like
Mhm.
it's not a then anyone can do it. It's just like, no, if you're willing to put in the work and be
Mhm.
ready to just be a sponge. Two of my life mantras are never be afraid to say I don't know, and always learn. Like never stop
Yeah.
learning. And so I really can see that a lot in you, and that's freaking exciting to see. And it's great to see you getting shakes, getting your fair shake. You're getting major movies now with the Martin Scorsese film coming up and working in Reservation Dogs. You mentioned, and you're wearing the shirt, Buffalo Nickel Creative.
Oh
Can you
yeah.
talk a little bit about that? I don't really know a whole lot about it. I follow them on Instagram, but I don't really know
Mhm.
Buffalo Nickel Creative. But Buffalo Nickel Creative got hired to work on Reservation Dogs. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, yeah, we did some
Okay.
behind the scenes work. I just want to go back real quick on the you're talking about luck and work and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing that I don't show on my Instagram or my reels is the rejection I've received. And that's a lot. And another thing is like all the traveling I did in order to just get a little gig here and there is because if you want to do it, you gotta go all in. There's a couple times where me and my wife, we struggled financially because I'd be she'd let at one point she let me just quit my job so I can pursue acting. And I
Wow.
was fortunate enough to get a few gigs, but
Good for you.
I faced a lot of rejection too as well. But
That's that's tough.
okay.
I'll dive into that. So I'm married too, and I got a little one at home, and I believe you're a father, right?
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
kids.
I've got a 9 month son.
Nice, good for you, man. My
Thank you.
son's just under 2 years, and it's a lot to ask for your family to say, hey, can I, especially you with someone who has gig economy, where
Hmm.
works in gig economy, where your gig could take you across the world for who
Hmm.
knows how long, and for someone to shoulder that burden to be in a relationship with someone who's willing to take that on, like that's a powerful person right there. So hats off to your wife, but that's
Hmm.
awesome. That to what you're saying, and just like be willing to go all in. It's scary. i'm sure
It
i'm sure
is.
i'm sure you were scared at certain times.
Oh yeah, there's so many times where we were like, man, like we're gonna be able to make it throughout this week, like and like we'd have to really budget trying to get some food, and I had to try to stay in shape with I'd eat canned chicken all the time,
Oh man.
But yeah,
Trying
my
to stay
wife, she's
shredded on a shoestring diet, huh? Shoestring
yeah,
budget, I mean.
exactly. But it's I credit a lot to her because like I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing if it wasn't for her. She's been such a strong support system and such a
Mm-hmm.
loving wife, taking care of all these little things. And now that we have a kid, and I've kind of gotten to a situation to where I can balance a lot of my Buffalo Nickel work, which I'll touch base on that in a minute, and then my stunt and acting work, and to where she can stay home majority of the time. Now right now she only works like 2 days a week, so she can stay home with her son.
That's awesome.
And so and she sometimes she feels guilty about it, but I'm just like, no, I'm honored to be able to do that for you because you
Mm-hmm.
did that for me. Like you let me be jobless and you worked all these hours. You brought home the bacon, all this other stuff in order for me to get to where I am now. But so with Buffalo Nickel, I was working at the Hard Rock for about 3.5 years, maybe a
Okay.
little bit longer. And at first, as a security guard, and at first it was really exciting, because I was young and there's like so much going on. Like, the casino just never stops. And,
Yeah.
getting in the fights, it's adrenaline rush, tackling people, cuffing
Oh
them,
god.
going through the whole process. And then like after a while, it just got like kind of annoying and kind of got me down, like I'm trying to tell people like, man, just calm down. You're not going to like how this ends, blah, blah, blah. And, cause like it got to the
Man,
point
that's a
where,
very you're freaking Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, man.
yeah.
Like you're just
Well, I wouldn't try to be like tough or anything. I just got to the point where some people you just can't talk down. and you kind of get
No, I
that
understand.
vibe from people. And so I just would just be real with them, be like, man, there's just like 30 of us in here, and they're all watching me talk to you, like, and there's only one of you. This isn't going to end well for you if you do anything. And then it just kind of, it got even worse than that, like to where I started seeing people that I kicked out the night before at like Quick Trip or something, or, you know, me and my wife at one point went to this sushi restaurant, and the night before there's a guy, or I kicked out this guy the night before, and he was there, and he was just mean
Oh
mugging us the
God.
whole time. And then, you know, I've gotten my life threatened outside of work. And so I just got to the point where I was just like, I need to get out of here. And I was doing, you know, I stayed in contact with Ryan Redcorn throughout the years because he'd help me out with auditions. And then, you know, I'd help him out when he needed someone to do a photo shoot with someone for a campaign or something. And so he hit me up one day and was like, hey, I'm doing this gig at OU and I need some help filming. Would you want to help me? And so I was like, yeah, I'll come help me. So I went and helped him. And then after film day, he's like, you want to make extra, a little bit more money? He's like, yeah. So he's like, all right, I'm going to have you edit it. So I spent a little bit of time with him in his office. And then I was just telling him about what was going on at the Hard Rock, which, you know, I've been in so many fights over there. And I was telling him that I just wasn't enjoying it. I was getting kind of depressed. It was taking, like, I used to be able to just go home and just like not think about it. And then it's just like weighing on me at home. And so then he just was like, dude, you just want to work for me full time? And I was like, yeah, sure. This
So
is when
Ryan
BNC
Redcord just offered you that opportunity, huh?
Yeah, he was like, man, we
That's
got more
awesome.
work coming in. And it's pretty cool because this is when BNC like wasn't, you know, it definitely it wasn't as big as it is now, and didn't have the amount of work as it does now. And so I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And so I went in there and started filming with them, started editing more. And then after a year, he started like having me write some of these scripts, take over with editing as far as like the direction of the documentary. And so he kind of really just pushed me to improve. So I have to thank him a lot for what I'm doing now too.
That's awesome.
And now it's just crazy because BNC is just all over the place. I mean, they've taken me all over the country. They're planning on flying us out to like Africa and Mexico.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And through BNC, like I've been able to meet just like the most amazing people here, some incredible stories, some traumatic stories, like people who've gone through like very traumatic events, but came out like triumphant and just with joy, just the happiest people now.
That's awesome. And Buffalo Nickel Creative, is that native run and owned?
Yeah, it's 100% indigenous. Good. Yeah, Ryan Redcorn, who's, you know, Osage. And you got me, Cherokee Nation. You got Laurent Kachaya, who's Warm Springs. You got Bronson Harjo, who's Creek Seminole. And then we just hired an intern. Her name is Hannah. And I believe she's Osage. And I want to say she's one other tribe, but I can't remember. And then we got Kyle Bell. You might have heard of him. He's doing this. What is he doing? He's doing something with Spike Lee, that director, Spike Lee. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, he's on the team as well, and he's Creek.
Jeez.
And then we got Ben Brown, who's this amazing illustrator and graphic designer. He's Osage as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you guys are going to Africa, Mexico, you said. So you're just getting more work, more exposure.
Yeah, and that's just like two of the things, but we just got so much going on. And like I said, they've flown me all over the place to film all these documentaries. I think in 2019, I was in 18 or 19 different reservations.
No
just filming, yeah.
Jeez.
And so it's really cool. One of the cooler, one of the most memorable trips for me was going to the Onondaga Nation up in New York, because
Nice.
I don't know if you know who Carl Barnes is. He was a Cherokee man. He collected seeds from all over, and he had like an amazing seed collection. And so when he passed away, he left it to a friend, and that friend passed it along to this group called Braiding the Sacred. And they have like literally thousands of jars of different kinds of seeds from tribes who are, you know, who are extinct. They're no longer here. Like they still have their corn and still keeping it going. And
kidding.
And then hearing them talk about it, just how passionate they are. Her name's Angela Ferguson, I believe her name is. Hearing her like talk about it is just so moving, you know. And she talks about how the corn will tell her when they need to be planted. Like they just have a glow to them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's, you know, stuff like that is the stories that need to be told, because that's not, to some people that's borderline romanticism, but it's not, because that's your connecting to your traditional ecological knowledge, like the knowledge of the soil, knowledge of the land, the relationship with the land and the earth, and understanding when those things need to be put in the ground, when they need to be cultivated. And that's the kind of stuff that would be great to see in like a television series, like a reality show, or even just, you know, something like a mini series. Like that would be awesome. But it sounds like Buffalo Nickel Creative could do that, something like that someday, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. We're wanting to push into. I mean, we're doing a feature-length documentary right now about the Violence Against Women Act, about how the process of getting that passed, and but we're wanting to move into more narrative work, and we're starting that transition.
That's awesome.
We're starting to schedule some short films, and then hopefully lead up to some feature films.
So I'm going to keep my eye on Buffalo Nickel Creative. If you guys come up with something amazing, well, when you guys, I should say, come up with something amazing, you get like a huge release for a next movie, definitely come back on the podcast. I think I want to talk to you again, specifically around Buffalo Nickel Creative, because there's a whole lot to talk about. And I think that's an amazing story in and of itself, just the Buffalo Nickel Creative story. But you guys were hired on, and I wanted to really talk about this before we finish. I don't want to take too much of your time, but Reservation Dogs. You guys were hired to work on Reservation Dogs, and Reservation Dogs comes out August 9th on FX, and Sterling Harjo is the showrunner, and it's like the first show in America ever where it's written, directed, casted like 100% indigenous, and even behind the camera, which is what was crazy to me, seeing, because I follow like Tazba Rose Chavez and Sterling Harjo and a handful of other people that worked, like Kate Devery Jacobs and you, of course. And you guys were all posting, you know, behind the scenes stuff and blurring out the screen, you know, when you did that, so we didn't see certain stuff. But it looked like it, and in hearing you guys talk about it in a few snippets here and there, it felt like there was just like energy radiating from that set of just like, there's something special going on here. Can you talk a little bit about that, about the experience? Not necessarily details, because you did sign a DNR, so obviously, you know, but just what was that experience like working in a freaking place like that?
I mean, hands down, the most fun set I've ever been on. Like, Sterling did, like, there's this thing that the one thing I really don't like about the industry is a lot of sets you get on, they'll treat extras like they're below you, you know? Like, I've seen extras get treated like trash. I've been an extra and I've been treated like trash several times being on set. And one thing Sterling made sure that didn't happen on the set was that he made sure that the extras could eat in the same area the leads were, or the same area that he was, you know, like, and he was engaging in conversations with some of the extras, with everyone, with the crew, you know, like no one felt like they're beneath anyone. And it was just such a positive set. Like, everyone was just having fun, joking around. And when it came down to work, everyone was working, but we just still had a good time. The energy was just, it hasn't been matched with any other set.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's.
I think that's real special. What you said is like not having a hierarchy, because that's definitely a Western thing. Of just like, look at my name tag, look at my don't you see my tie? I'm important. And I think that's very, very much a native thing, where it's just like, well, your age technically makes you important. Being an elder makes you important. Outside of that, like, everyone's on the same level. I don't care if you're the president of the United States or you know, just a town, you know, wanderer. You mean something to this community, and you know, break bread with anybody. And I think that's a great thing that you said. I think that's unfortunate that it's still like that. There's kind of like a caste system with extras and leads and regular film sets. So when you say you're treated like trash as an extra on a non-Reservation Dog set, what does that look like?
I actually have a great example. So I did Reservation Dogs, did some stunts for them, and then it was like the following week after my last day of Reservation Dogs, I went to Killers of the Flower Moon, and me and a friend of mine, his name is George Alexander. He's a native artist, pretty well known, very freaking talented. But anyway, he was an extra on that set, and because I was stunt, I was given like a pass, little badge, whatever. And so they had Crafty in the back of this building we're in, and so we were taking a break. So I was like, I'm gonna just go back there, get me a coffee and if they have any snacks, we can get some snacks. So I got me there, asked him
Nice.
for coffee, asked him for pig and blanket because they had him there, and I was like, all right, cool. And he walked up right next to me, and he was about to ask her the same thing. So he's like, hey, can I get in? She cut him off, and she's like, are you background? And he's like, I just want to cough. And like before you can finish the sentence again, she's like, but are you background? I said it real stern.
What?
And I was like, what the hell? And then he's like, yeah, I'm background. But I just wanted it. And she's like, well, background, eat over there. And it's like maybe 2
What?
blocks down the road where background can eat and have coffee.
Oh.
And he's like, I got to be on set right now. He's like, I just wanted a quick coffee, get some energy. And she's like, no, background, eat over there.
That's so
And so
stupid.
we both walked away. I was like, what the fuck? He's like, yeah, bro, what the fuck is this? And he was I don't think he knew that I was doing stunts. He's like, how'd you get a coffee? I was like, oh, I'm doing stunts, man. They gave me a badge, but I didn't think that. There's a spider. He's like, I didn't think that would matter. Like, it was literally just me and him. Like, she could have handled it a lot differently. Because with me, when I asked, she was like, oh yeah, of course, of course, yes, sir, blah blah blah, and
And a few seconds later,
and she was just
completely flipped.
It was like a dog got into the kitchen. It's like, get out.
Jeez.
And
oh my gosh.
And she could have at least just been like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. We have protocol. Like, you got to eat over there, blah, 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 or something. But like, it was just me and him. It wasn't like there's a line behind him. So she could have gotten him a coffee.
What really sucks is like you make that scene in the movie, the lady's the bad guy, the bad person. But really, she's just doing her job. And it's unfortunate that someone gave her instructions and dangled that carrot over her head of like, if you don't do this and execute in this manner, I will take your employment from you.
Yeah, I'm
like,
sure that's exactly what it was too.
And that's terrible. Like you have to ask them, are you background? Are you not? I don't want any background people taking food from this. They eat over there. If you make that happen, if you allow background people here, you're out.
And then
that's terrible.
And then on Reservation Dogs, the first day they started filming the second episode, everyone got steak and shrimp.
Oh, no way.
Extras, crew, leads, everyone got steak and shrimp. So that's what I'm talking about, Is like and
awesome.
There's a lot of times extras went over to the main crafty area and got something to snack on, something to eat. That where the leads get stuff, So that's what I was talking about, like how Sterling made sure that wasn't the environment on his set.
Well, and I think he's onto something too. I mean, just in general, clearly that's a positive experience for you. And I'm sure anybody that is on that set, they'll all say like, why don't more people do this? And that's eventually going to bleed to more profits, more positive stories, more positive spotlight onto the show. And I think hopefully gets people to course correct to be like, yo, that's the old guard. The way people used to do things on set, like it's so stupid. You get enough people getting those interactions highlighted on social media and getting some light shed on that kind of crap. It's just like, man, like eventually that'll all go away. And eventually what Sterling's doing will be the norm, hopefully. But that's exciting that he's doing stuff like that. Because really that energy, seeing people's posts and hearing him talk about it and just posting, like the shit ass tape on people's like backs, it just looked like a fun set. It looked like a family just hanging out, like doing work. It looked like you were at like a freaking, like a family gathering or something in the woods. And it just looked like you were just hanging out.
That was definitely the energy there, man. That's what I felt like. Everyone was talking to everyone. Everyone was cutting up with everyone. I'm very thankful to be a part of that, and in the smallest way, of course. But like, just so blessed that I had the opportunity to be there behind the scenes and on camera.
So prior to me hitting record, you kind of mentioned a couple of things you did. Obviously, you can't go into detail, but you came on with Buffalo Nickel Creative, going to do some cinematography, but then you said, hey, once again, Johnny on the spot with your resume, Johnny on the spot with your reel. And you were like, hey, look at my stunt reel. I can do some stunts if you guys want any more, or have the need for it. And they offered you a couple opportunities. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So that actually kind of came from two different directions in a way. So remember I was telling you about Bobby telling me to post my thing, and he sent it to his agent, all that other stuff. Well, the stunt woman who's working on Reservation Dogs as well, and she's a complete badass. Her name's Krista Perry. But she saw my post, that she saw that Bobby shared it, and she was like, oh, this guy can make a punch look real. Like when someone hits him, looks like someone really hit him. And so she showed that to the stunt coordinator of Reservation Dogs. And so that was being in the works as like, while I was on the set doing behind the scenes, I, was talking to Migazy, and I told him, hey, if you need an extra body getting thrown around, I'm your guy. And he's like, you know, actually, we do have a scene coming up in a week or so where we need someone to get knocked out. And so he introduced me to Kate, who's one of the producers. And we just kind of started talking, and I showed her my reel there too. And she's like, okay, yeah,
That's
great.
awesome.
And so, yeah, that's just kind of how it happened there.
That's freaking awesome, dude.
And that's why I think having a reel is really important. Just right off the bat, you can show someone, this is what I can do. This is what I have done. I can do more, you know, that type.
I think so. You know, this is for the listeners, but you know, this show is about talking about Native representation in film and television. But this interview here is a testament to just don't get ready, stay ready. And just like you don't want to be caught being like, oh, let me go update my resume, or oh, my reel isn't updated yet. Give me a day or two. Like you might only have that one opportunity, and Ryker is a testament to just always being ready. I think that's freaking awesome.
Thank you.
So the last thing I want to talk about before we go is, you know, something we talked about a little bit on Instagram was your fitness. You're a jack dude, and people that don't know what he looks like, you know, look up Ryker Sixkiller. Homie is huge, and he was recently cast in a role. I don't remember the title, so you're gonna have to remind me. I apologize. Where you played Samson.
Oh,
and
judges.
They had some judges, and there was some ominous freaking backlighting, and you had this basically silhouette of you, and you look like the Incredible Hulk. You're just massive. The way they like got all the lighting and everything. But yeah, can you talk a little bit about, you know, I think you could be a fitness influencer. I know you don't like that idea. I know you don't like the idea of like putting yourself out there and constantly having to manage social media.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of Native men, especially, I think we kind of constrict ourselves and put restrictions on us because of genetics, quote unquote. We're like, you know, we don't have the genetics for that kind of build. But then you see people like you, Tosh Collins, Martin Sensmeyer, that have that build that, you know, people really covet. And they're like, wow, I guess it is possible for Native people to be built like that.
Yeah.
So what made you continue to be, or what got you into your fitness journey, and why do you continue to do it?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. Also, kind of like a little bit of a downer. I joke around with it with my brother. What started me getting to work out, I was in 5th grade, and this girl I liked only liked boys with 6-packs. And I was like I wasn't like fat, but I was a little chubby, you know? So I went to some really extreme lengths to try to get that 6-packs. Like at one point I was like on mouthwash at the time. I don't know if it still says it, but it says like not to eat for 30 minutes after you use mouthwash. So I, you know, stole some mouthwash from Walmart, and I'd do it. Like, all right, I can't eat for 30 minutes. And then, you know, I'd go for a run. I had this little push up. And then my brother, he is like the summer going to my 6th grade year, or summer going to my 7th grade year. He just decided to have me like work out with him one summer. And then I just loved it. I loved getting bigger, loved getting more lean. And the next year, of course, that girl ended up liking me.
Nice.
But anyway, so he's the one that got me into it. And then I got really hooked into football. And he was like just so supportive of it and made sure that I was on top of everything. So he's the one that really got me to get like fit, bigger, stronger. And so it stemmed from there. And then from now, I really enjoy being fit. You know, I love the way I feel when I move around. Like, cause the heaviest I've been was about 219. And, you know, I wasn't like fat or anything, but I wasn't the leanest either. And I was really strong and just hard on my joints and shit. So I cut down. Now I'm at like about 202. But yeah,
down.
Yeah.
202. Geez. Yeah.
Yeah. In Samson, I was 215 pounds. I packed on a lot for that one.
You were a big guy in Samson. I could definitely see that.
But
that's.
Oh, what were you saying?
No, I was just gonna say it's I think it's pretty cool to see. Like I said, I have a lot of respect for people who work in the film industry for Native and non-Native roles, and you kind of just get cast. You know, you seem to have that ethnically ambiguous look that they kind of so you can kind of do a lot of different things. And I think with your fitness and with your physique. I think you could leverage that into more opportunities, and I think it's just exciting. I definitely want to have you back on to talk more about Buffalo Nickel Creative, if not you, along with somebody else from Buffalo Nickel Creative.
There's a few people who I feel would be great for you to talk to. Bronson Harjo being one of them. Dude loves to talk, but he's one of my best friends, and I think he'd be a great person to interview. He has a lot of knowledge about BNC. He's he's the office manager. He's also one of our producers, and he's a cinematographer as well. He just started doing that as well. But back with the fitness thing, where you're talking about the shape and whatnot, is I feel like I'm built like a Lego block, where it's just my shoulders and my hips are all the same width, and my rib cage is really expanding. And so that guy that just walked behind me, that's what I was talking about. He always told me, make the illusion that, build bigger delts, bigger lats, and to make that V. Because I always wanted that, Arnold Schwarzenegger
you always wanted the V.
Yeah. Yep. And so
he just said the Oak look.
Yeah, he's like, just make the illusion that you got it. And so
that's hilarious.
So yeah, I mean, you can tell even on Samson, I got big hips, I got big rib cage, but from hardware, my shoulders now go past my hips.
That's awesome, man. Well, you definitely, I think you definitely have opportunities to, maintain your physique. You maintain your physique, you keep your opportunities up, you get more stunt work, and I think it's exciting. I have one last thing I've always wanted to ask a stuntman. When it comes to stunt work, there doesn't seem to be recognition at like the Oscar level, but because there's so much behind the scenes work now, or behind the scenes work with all of these movies, I think we get an opportunity now to see how much costume and makeup design, how much really cinematography matters, how much stunt work matters. Do you think there should be an Oscar or Academy Award for stunt work?
There used to be, I believe.
No kidding. So I'm going to learn something today. Go ahead and educate me.
I mean, I don't know too much about it. I just I just found out about it a couple of weeks ago that there used to be one, because there's me and a few other stuntmen. We're talking about it. And this one guy I met on a set of Killers, he used to work on Walker, Texas Ranger.
Okay.
And
Chuck Norris?
Yeah. And so he did the scene where he got lit on fire, and it was like,
holy crap,
it was really intense. And he told them, like, he's like, if you see me tapping out, he's like, don't put me out, let me burn for a minute. Like, oh my gosh. And he said that,
please tell me, I hate to interrupt, but please tell me you've never been lit on fire.
No, I think I'd like to try it once, but fire is one of the things I'm really scared of.
Oh God. Okay, sorry. Continue your story.
No, you're good.
Yeah, Walker, Texas Ranger. Don't put me out unless I'm tapping.
Yeah. So he was explaining the whole scene to me, and I guess he was just telling himself, like, I'm gonna win the Oscar. I'm gonna get that award. I'm gonna get it. And because it was a TV show and not a movie, he was just he didn't get to get it. And the guy who ended up winning it, the stuntman who won it, he was set on fire too, but it wasn't the level that this guy did. And so he was like, he was pretty bummed out about it. And I was like, yeah, I would be too. I was like, it's still a stunt, still needs to be recognized. But yeah, I think they should bring that back. I think that'd motivate more people to get into it. And
for sure.
Yeah, and I just feel like, there's amazing stuntmen and stunt women out there that I feel like deserve recognition.
Oh yeah, for sure. Some of this stuff that, because stuntmen and stuntwomen, I've dived into it a little bit. They have such a diverse background. There's ex-gymnasts, ex-martial artists, ex-bodybuilders, and you guys really do the hard work of maintaining your body while getting hurt all the time. Like that seems counterintuitive to me. Where it's like you're gonna punish your body on set while you're almost like professional wrestlers in a way. Of just like, I'm sure there's like heavy, like drug abuse or something, or like some, at least you guys don't have to get drug tested, but I'm sure there's like a lot of like medicinal stuff you guys need to partake in to like maintain your joints, maintain your health, and like maintain your pain level tolerance. Because if you're on set, I'm sure for days and days and cold weather, hot weather, and I'm sure your joints get to you, and when do you find time to work out when you're on set, all that good stuff. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for stunt men and stunt women. You guys do the hard work that really isn't recognized.
A lot of it's just learning technique, like I was mentioning earlier, of how to fall. We're not just falling, just going for it. Like, we have it mapped out, and we have different techniques of how to fall in different ways. Like if we land straight on our back and whatnot, as opposed to laying on our side or laying forward, or whatnot. Because if you land wrong, you could really hurt yourself, you know. And like I was saying earlier, you want to distribute that impact throughout everything instead of so like if I was going to land on my side, what I would try to do, like if I was doing a flip, one of the stunts I did for Reservation Dogs is I got flipped over and I landed on my side. And so my goal was to bring this arm up, let it land here as well, and then put this hand right there all at the same time, and then have my legs also spread out like this while I'm sideways, and let the feet hit first, and then let my body take the rest of it. So it's not just my hip, it's not just my shoulder that's hitting the ground and getting all the damage, you know.
But that all happens in a split second. I feel like that's not even, you're just reacting at that point, right? Because you've done it so many times.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. You got to do, you know, got to practice. And that's the video I posted yesterday on Instagram. You know, that's what it was. We were just practicing and trying to stay sharp. And we just decided to record it. And we're going to try to do once a week. But yeah, if anyone wants to get into it, I recommend definitely doing some research. If you can't afford getting like pads or something, get a mattress. I mean, I've done stuff on mattresses when I was younger. Trying to get access to like a facility with like gymnastics facility, you know, and limber up.
Teach you how to tumble properly.
Yeah, teach you how to tumble, etc. Yeah, warming up and stretching is huge. You don't want to go into one of those fight scenes or do one of those stunts tight, because you could definitely hurt yourself that way as well.
Well, you know, so you heard it here. Warm up, stretch, learn to tumble, and you're on your way to becoming a stuntman, some person.
Yeah. And if you haven't done something before, like if you get cast or something, you haven't done a stunt before, let it be known to the coordinator. Say like, hey, like I've never done this before. Can you either show me how to do it properly, or, you know, whatever they need to do to make that happen, or if there's another thing you could do that's similar or something, because you don't want to go into a set never doing the stunt before and then just trying to go for it because you don't want to tell them that you haven't done it before, and then you could injure yourself very badly.
So we waited till the end of the interview for you to offer some very sage wisdom, and I think that is what you just described, something what I would have done probably. It's just like, oh shit, I don't want to get fired. Maybe they misinterpreted my resume, but I'll wing it. But what you said, that's how you get hurt. You got to be transparent.
Kind of the personality I had too at first, and then I kind of checked myself about that real quick. And it kind of goes back to what you're saying is like, if you don't know something, you know, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
I just think that's very important to have a mindset like that. To let go of your pride and your ego, and just, you know, just take in as much information as you can from someone who knows more.
I think that's a great way to end the podcast right there, man. I appreciate you taking the time to come on, and definitely someone to look out for. Ryker Sixkiller, Buffalo Nickel Creative, definitely something to keep an eye out for, and just continue to see the work that they're pushing out. And I appreciate you taking the time, man. Thanks. Yeah,
thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, awesome, man.